Are you constantly being dismissed by doctors for having certain injuries? Are your injuries stopping you from having a good time? Are you constantly frustrated and confused with your own body? Well, it might be time to take matters into your own hands. I'm not saying that this is going to fix everything or get you to where you want to be, but just like writing an essay, sometimes we just need somewhere to start. How I went from weak, being riddled with injuries and not being able to train and being miserable, living in fear, to now being strong, resilient, mobile and everything. A little bit about my history. I remember I couldn't stand up or go for a walk or even sit down for longer than like 10 minutes before my back started to flare up and just feel really uncomfortable. I remember going to doctors, chiropractors, taking medication. None of it worked. Actually, chiropractors made it worse. They made me hurt and way more pain for days afterwards. And I just like, oh, like, what am I doing? And it wasn't until kind of I figured out what was wrong with me. I'm going to go through 5 things, kind of topics which should help you. They shouldn't be substituted as kind of medical information. I always recommend going to like a healthcare professional and kind of getting actual assistance on this rather than just some random guy on the internet. But if it like kind of helps and you kind of get a direction where you are, where you're at, where you want to go, cool. That's what I'm hopefully trying to help with. So the first thing is read on your problems, find the actual problem. Like with me, I didn't know what was going on because I wasn't able to explain. People were like, what's wrong with you? I was like, I don't know. It wasn't until my mum was like, oh, you have health anxiety. And I was like, oh, great. And then I read a book and I was like, oh my God, I know, this is exactly, I felt everything. I was like, this is me, this is me, this is me. And it actually really helped. So if I read some random books on different things, it's not really going to help. You can consume so much information, but it's not actually going to be the right thing for you. So if you have kind of a good physio or someone healthcare to kind of provide you with that reasons, like even a therapist, could be mental. You know, mine was more kind of mental and physical. That brings us on to step number 2. To start small, run before you can walk. Now, hopefully physios or someone have given you exercises specific to your problem. Now, for example, someone wants to squat kind of full range of motion. But yeah, something in the knee or ankle doesn't feel quite right. Maybe it's the mobility problem or maybe it's too much load, even body weight. So what you can do is you can take some weight off it by using a band or the rack or something to hold yourself up on. Now, anyone can squat full range of motion if they just have the heels lifted off the ground. However much you need to do that is up to you, is based on your body and your anatomy. So if you're fully on your toes, I reckon everyone can just go like hamstring to calf instantly, right? Some people's knees might not be used to and adjusted to a full range of motion. So if you just took some weight off and then just introduced it, start small, load it over time, I'm sure you'll get there. But once we do kind of get stronger, we do need to up the weights over time. We do need to increase. So say you want to grow your bench press, but you've got a kind of a rotator cuff injury. Now you're doing all these rotator cuff stuff, rotation, but your bench press is going up, but you've still kind of got this shoulder pain. That's because your rotator cuff strength is still here. You haven't increased the weight or increased the intensity for it to demand and develop and grow. So it's the same thing. Like you start small and you keep increasing. If you wanted to gain muscle and strength, you'd keep increasing the weight and intensity, reps, sets, duration, all that stuff. Same thing with your rehab exercises. Now, number 3, train your weak points and things that are generally undertrained in your programming or anything. For instance, for my example, I hadn't really trained my spine. Now, I'd listen to all kind of like physios and like health experts, you know, keep your back straight. But until I kind of did some research on my own, understanding that you need to move your spine in flexion, extension, rotation, and lateral flexion, these were kind of the movements that your spine are meant to do. Now, what I understood was if I just made those movements strong, that when I came to do these movements in daily life, my back was like, oh, I know what to do. Because what would happen is I would bend my spine or lift something up with a rounded back and everyone's like, oh, you know, terrible. If you see someone deadlifting with a kind of fish hook thing and you're like, oh my God, back broken central. That's just under load management. That's probably too much that your spine can handle in kind of a flexion. At the minute, I'm only training like Jefferson curls with like 40, 50 kilos, but I started with 5. I've trained some people and they only need like just body weight. Like sometimes it might be too much even body weight, so we need some assistance. Because understanding that training my spine was my weak point, it helped me to grow and repair and just live life. So train your weak points. Maybe it's forearms, maybe it's calves, ankles, maybe it's proper knee flexion, like full range of motion. Maybe it's hips. Yeah. train them. If you figured out what your problem is, you've got exercises, go for it. If maybe you've gotten really strong at those exercises that you've been given, maybe a new weak point has kind of shown itself, then either going back to the physios, get help on these new exercises, or kind of figuring out some general stuff, like even if it's just like bicep curls for your arm, or like forearm stuff if you've got tennis elbow, kind of stuff like that. Do a little bit of research, I'm sure you'll have to figure it out. Number 4 is understand it will all take time. Now, imagine you see like a really fat and obese person, right? It might have taken them ages to get there. And then they're like, oh, why can't I lose all this weight in like 5 days? And everyone's like, oh, it took you ages to get there and take ages to get back. You know, same thing with injuries and recovery and all that. Like anything worthwhile takes time. Now, this is a really hard thing to understand when you are going through journeys back to kind of healing and everything. That's why like in marathons they have like markers for every mile or every kilometer. They need something to keep them going. You need to see like progress. You need to be motivated to want to go there. Like either that's like reaching a certain number on your bench to recovery, or deadlifting another weight, or like your body weight, or even just being able to move pain-free. It's stuff like that. It's like you want to recognize your progress. You want to recognize your growth, so you understand it will take time. You have to find ways to enjoy the process and to find markers that you've improved on, keep track of your progress. Maybe you've lost a certain amount of weight, etc. Understand it will take time. Now, number 5, fuel and rest. If I changed all the parts of my car, if I understood the problem, if I got kind of expert help, if I repaired the things that were weak and undertrained, and I understood that it's going to take time to build my car. But if I don't put fuel in my car, it's going nowhere. Like, you have to rest, you have to recover. Go for a break outside on work and we're just on a phone, like we're not actually resting. Our brain's constantly going around. Sometimes you might just need a rest. Also, if you're strength training, you're running, and you're doing all these active things, you need probably more carbs, you need more fuel going in. Now, hopefully you kind of recognized if you're at a certain point, or maybe you're not even on this journey, maybe you're doing something different. But this is just something that I went through. Maybe someone's on something similar, and it can help you understand and just recognize what point you're at, to maybe realize your progress. Maybe you've come a certain way and you've realized all this, and you need to just get a few steps further. Maybe you're a few steps all ahead, maybe you've done it, and you think, as long as it helps in any sort of way. Cool.